Hello, and welcome to the first episode of a new series that I'm starting. For this wonderful start, we'll learn what a phylogenetic tree is, the parts of a phylogenetic tree, what convergent and divergent evolution are, what are ecological niches, and why these adaptations happen in the first place. First, we need to know what an ecological niche is. Well, an ecological niche is the role of an organism in the ecosystem, what it eats, how it eats, and its interactions with other organisms. Think of it as a job. Each organism has to fulfill a role in the big company of life, the ecosystem, where each one of them is specialized onto something. For example, a little isopod, roly-poly, or pillbug are good at eating decaying matter and leaves, but they cannot hunt cockroaches. Can you, kitty patootie? Of course you can, because you're big!
Multiple bad words.
Well, meanwhile, a bird can eat cockroaches, but can't exactly munch on rotting leaves. And here comes the Gauss principle, or for the nerds, the competitive exclusion principle. And this specifies that two species sharing the same ecological niche, job, in the same habitat, company, can't coexist forever. Eventually, one will outcompete the other one, and it's exactly like a job. Why? If there is only one post for one worker, and there is two workers, you want to stay with the best one, with the better adapted one, and that is exactly what happens in nature. The best suited worker gets the job, and the other one... For example, if two species of bird both eat insects hiding in the bark of trees, the one with the longer beak or better feeding adaptations will leave more offspring, leading, of course, to the other species to extinction. Anyhow, let's continue with the phylogenetic trees. What is a phylogenetic tree? I'm so confused! A phylogenetic tree is a diagram model used by scientists to show evolutionary relationships between species based on genetic evidence, shared ancestry, and morphological similarities and differences. And phylogenetic trees, just like real trees, are divided into sections. Everyone behold the phylogenetic tree of arthropods. Phylogenetic trees are divided into clades, tips, branches, and nodes. Tips or leaves are the endpoints of branches, representing the organisms, species, or groups being studied. In this case, a horseshoe crab. The branches connect the tips and nodes, showing the evolutionary paths between ancestral lineages. And there are basically these lines. You can think of them in a certain way as all the ancestors that had to pass before, well, that thing is that thing and not that thing. Continuing with the parts of a phylogenetic tree, we have the nodes, which are the points where branches split, and they represent a common ancestor from which new lineages diverge. For example, in here, the horseshoe crabs and scorpions, spiders, and more, arachnids, share a common ancestor for the last time, meaning they are highly related. And in this node, it represents the last common ancestors between sea spiders, arachnids, and horseshoe crabs, meaning sea spiders are equally related to horseshoe crabs and arachnids, but arachnids and horseshoe crabs are more related to one each other than to the sea spiders, which are actually not spiders. And finally, we have clades, or monophyletic groups, which are a division in a phylogenetic tree that includes all common ancestors and all of its descendants. For example, ant, bees, and wasp all evolved from a shared common ancestor, meaning they belong to the same clade and are closely related. Everything seems perfect now. It's clear, but the question is, why do species even change? This happens through something called divergent evolution, the accumulation of genetic and physical differences between groups of the same species that can eventually lead to the formation of new species, usually caused by habitat isolation or environmental changes, producing new adaptations that make each population more efficient in its own environment, an ecological niche, or job, in the big company of life. In simpler terms, divergent evolution happens when two populations of the same species get separated, physically like when Pangea separated, or environmentally, and adapt in different ways over time. For example, Polar bears and grizzly bears share a common ancestors. When their populations became isolated, one group adapted to the cold Arctic, while the other thrived in the American forest. Over time, each evolved traits suited to their environment. Now, let's bring this to life! It's alive! Mommy bunny has two bunny sons of the same species, Bunnicus cuticus, a completely fictional omnivorous bunny species. When both of them grow up, they move to different regions of Bunnyland. But then, something unexpected happens. An earthquake splits Bunnyland in two. The first bunny, Howdy Bunny, ends up in a region full of termites and develops a taste for them.
I love termites!
Meanwhile, Uwu Bunny moves to a region full of grass and becomes a dedicated herbivore.
I love plants!
Soon, they both find their soulmates.
I love plants too. Let's marry! I like termites. Me too. Let's marry.
Then, the miracle of life happens. Soon, they both raise families and pass on their habits and genes. After many generations of natural selections and maybe even a few natural disasters, their descendants adapt genetically to their unique environments. So we could expect Howdy Bunny's descendants to evolve long and sticky tongues to catch termites efficiently, just like anteaters and pangolins, which, by the way, are a perfect example of convergent evolution, when unrelated species evolve similar traits to solve similar problems. For example, pill millipedes and pill bugs. They look nearly identical, but if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know they're different things. But the thing is, they're as different as you and the lemur are. The reason of them being extremely similar, it's because it's simply what works best for the lifestyle. They're cute and beautiful and that's for amazing and buggy lifestyle, which, by the way, none of them are bugs, but God, I love isopods. Anyhow, you can think of that like in math class, when the teacher leaves an exam and you and your classmate didn't study, so both of you came up with invented formulas that at the end somehow made the same result but with a different process. Because you and your classmate needed to solve the same thing, the same problem. Back to our bunny analogy, we could expect Uwu's bunny descendant to look more like the bunnies we're familiar with, adapted to eat grass and digest plant efficiently. Eventually, if members of both groups of descendants were to meet again, their genetic and morphological differences will be probably too great for them to produce fertile offspring. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else, because I am an open-minded lad, is how we define a species. When two populations can no longer interbreed successfully, with some exceptions, of course, is nature is life. There is so many exceptions. But still, they all share a common ancestor. Mommy bunny. Because an organism can never evolve out of a clade. That's why we humans are technically monkeys. Yes. And termites are cockroaches, but that's for another video. Just like Mommy Bunny, every species has a long lineages of ancestors. If we keep tracking down that line far enough, we'll eventually reach something we biologists like to call LUCA. L-U-C-A. Short for Last Universal Common Ancestor. It's a cute name, but LUCA wasn't really a bunny. More like a very primitive single-celled organism, more like 99% more bacteria and more of 0.0000000000001 of a bunny. But you can always believe. Well, I'm sorry. You can. Luca wasn't a bunny, sadly. But if you want to imagine in a cuter way, just think it. Luca was the granny bunny of all life on Earth. Every living thing, from you to oak trees to tardigrades to isopods, is one of Granny Bunny descendants. That ancient ancestors mark the beginning of the great phylogenetic tree of life, and of life itself. Anyhow, I would like to thank you for staying till the end and supporting this video, which It's very poorly made, but it's my first video. Anyhow, if you like it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if this video gets supported. In the next video, we will see the world of arthropods and answer some surprisingly cool questions like, why are horseshoe crabs more closely related to spiders than true crabs, and why are termites technically cockroaches? Anyhow, if you like this content, I would like to recommend you other content creators like Cleans Reptiles to feed that insatiable hunger of knowledge we'll have. Alright, see you later. Matteo off.